I have to sort of fall back on my batch as example. But if you look at my batch, the average age would be about 42 or so, right? At 42, with another 15 years of career at least, possibly 20, there are a lot of people. I think the minimum position that we will see among my batchmates is general manager. A lot of them are VPs, some of them are CEOs, country heads, and so on and so forth. Lastly, I think what matters is also the fact that as an individual, an MBA from a premier B school, that experience of 2 years changes you. It prepares you to face challenges. It prepares you to be a decision maker. It prepares you to be a leader. And you can see the change in yourself, and others will see the change in you. The person who goes into a B school and the person who comes out of a B school are fundamentally different. It's a, it's a cliched phrase, but it's a life-altering experience. Right? One caveat or conditions apply is this is not true for MBA as a degree. It is true for the top B schools, whether in India or abroad. Right? So some of you are thinking of doing an MBA, but obviously there are certain concerns that people have. One concern which has really come up in the last few years is that the fees charged by the top B schools is very high. And I must admit that I have also been surprised by the level of fees that have been raised, levels to which fees have been raised by B schools. We completed our IIM 2-year program in 2 years, for about 2 lakhs. Now we are talking about 15 lakhs and 16 lakhs. But understand one thing, right? Most of working people by now have some idea of what to make as far as investments is concerned. Some people think of investing in insurance schemes. Some people think of investing in mutual funds. Some in stock market. Some want to buy a house as quickly as possible. But if you're talking about investments, let me assure you that the best investment that you can ever make is in your career. The best investment that you can ever. And the benefits that you get from these investments, you have to see in the medium to long term. If you take even a 5-year time frame, then if you take a 5-year time frame at least, definitely you will be able to easily get back the money and more than what you have invested. Again, to compare, when we did our MBA program, the investment we made was 2 lakhs, but then the average salary was also 2.2 lakhs. Today, if the investment being made is 16 lakhs, the average salary is also in the range of 15-16 lakhs at the top. For some of the slightly lower B schools, the investment is not that rosy. You invest something like 13 lakhs, 14 lakhs, and you get average salary of about 9-10 lakhs. But again, please understand, if you look at a medium to long term, it is extremely easy to repay this. Second, education loans are very easy to get from all the top B schools. A lot of people with low income, low family income will be able to get additional scholarships which can help you support your education. There are again scholarships for minorities, there are scholarships for SC/STs and so on and so forth. Please understand, when a scholarship is given, it will not look at your income because you would have resigned the job to join the B school. So it will look at rest of the family income. So if you discount your income, without considering your income, if your family income is, let us say, low, say about 3 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs, then you will easily get a substantial chunk of money as scholarship. There are people who said, look, do I need work experience? Can I get into a B school without work experience? The answer is yes, you can. So work experience is not compulsory, but it helps, right? There is some percentage weightage that is given in addition to your CAT score and other parameters for having work experience. And the more work experience you have, the more points you get, up to a limit of 36 months. For most IIMs and top B schools, the limit is 36 months, which is 3 years. Though 1 or 2 B schools, the limit can go up to 5 years or 60 months. But for most B schools, the limit is 36. That means if you want to do a 2-year MBA full-time program, then the best work-ex to have is 3 years of work-ex. Okay, but the fact is that any top B school has a distribution of people who are freshers, people who have small work at 6 months, 1 year, as well as people in the 1 to 2 years and 2 to 3 years, plus about 10-15% in the greater than 3 years bracket also. So it is not that, look, if I have 4 years, I should not do a 2-year full-time program, or if I have 6 months or 1 year, then I should not really be applying. No. People keep asking me this question, what is the best time to do an MBA? And I have a simple answer to it. The best time to do an MBA is whenever you get a seat in a top B school. It's not that you can say, okay, let me finish 3 years work-ex, then I will get in. What if you don't get in at that time? Then it becomes 4 years. Remember that significant number of people who are attempting CAT are doing it for the second and third time, trying to get into a better B school. And it makes sense sometimes that you sacrifice that extra year to ensure that you get into a top B school. So a lot of people who get into the IIMs and top B schools with a 6 months experience or 1 year experience or even 2 years experience are not doing it as per plan. It's not a plan that I will join after 2 years. They would have written CAT even earlier. They didn't get through. They tried a second time. Meanwhile, the experience increased. Okay, so forget about what is ideal amount of work experience. The best thing is when you get a call, when you get a seat is the best time to join. And sometimes to get a seat in the top B schools, you might have to try more than once. Okay, as simple as that. Is this a good time to do an MBA? Not in terms of how much work-ex you have, but in terms of, is 2014 a good time? I think it's one of the best times. We had a recession, as most of you would know that, from the last 2-3 years, thanks to whether you could call it Manmohan Singh government or the Ma Beti Sarkar. You had a recession for the last 2 to 3 years. And one effect of recession is that people have reduced, the number of people taking CAT has reduced. From a high of 2,74,000, it has come down to something like 1,80,000 or something last year. And perhaps it might decline even further this year. But when you think about it, people not writing CAT because it's a recession, it's actually a big mistake. Because you will write CAT in 14, you will pass out in 15. Sorry, you will join a B school in 15, you will pass out in 17. So will the recession be there in 17? Most likely not. At least from the economic history of India, when you look at it, most recessions do not last more than 2 to 3 years. So it's quite likely that 2015 the recession will lift. And in any case, 17 would be a good year. Excuse me. So, but the number of CAT takers having declined, At the same time, you have 13 IIMs instead of 6. Number of the IIMs have increased the number of seats. Number of non-IIM top B schools have increased seats. This is a clear advantage for you because your chances have increased this year because of lower number of people taking the exam, lesser competition and more seats. Again, I am not saying that, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm suffering from a bit of cold. Suddenly came on to me yesterday night. People from Calcutta would know there's been a bit of change of weather. We've had some rains in the last 2 nights. Welcome relief, but it also brings with it some colds and fevers. Right. So not everybody can get into the top IIMs because seats are limited, but I would say anybody getting into the top 30-40 B schools, I think has a very good management career over the next 10 to 15 years because almost all the top 30-40 B schools are offering close to 100%. Some of this is well known to you. Let me explain the remaining parts. How do IIM select students? See, the IIMs are not one entity. Each IIM is a separate college, so there are 13 separate colleges which have a common exam. The most, but in this selection process, they have many parameters. Okay, they use these parameters to first do a shortlisting, call people for interview. They have an interview. These days, they're also having a written ability test, like an essay. 1 or 2 B schools still retain the GD as a method of selection, and in the end, they do a final selection. Of all the parameters, the most important score is the CAT score. Right? The weightage for the CAT score in final selection ranges between 35 to 50%, with 1 or 2 exceptions. I think this year the exceptions are IIM Bangalore as well as IIM Indore. But remember, these parameters also keep changing from year to year as the IIMs try to fine-tune their selection process. The next most important weightage is the interview score. Again, with 1 or 2 exceptions, the weightage of interview is 30 to 45. Then written essay carries a weightage of 10 to 15%. Academic profile, which is your class 10, 12 and graduation marks. Lot of students these days are worried that if I don't have a very good score in 10, 12 or graduation, then I don't have a chance. It's not like that. Definitely, there are certain B schools which give high weightage. IIM Bangalore is the prime example. So if you don't have a good score in 10, 12 and graduation, you may not get a chance for IIM Bangalore. Perhaps not for IIM Indore also, and maybe for Ahmedabad. But 3 B schools, 3 out of the 13 IIMs, rest of the 10 you have a very good chance. Okay, so the important thing to understand is that these parameters are not standard for most of the IIMs. Academic profile is not a major factor. Then some of the IIMs have a few other factors. They give 2 to 5% for things like gender diversity, which is basically for women candidates they give additional points, but there's a small amount, 2 to 5% of additional weightage. Any questions so far? Okay, no questions. Let me move on then. The important exams, and we have only mentioned some of the important colleges under these exams. It's only for basic knowledge, nothing in detail to go into. I don't need to go into detail on these issues. CAT is the most important exam. Other than IIMs, a lot of other good B schools, SP Jain, MDI, some of the IITs have very good MBA programs these days. IIT Mumbai, Shailesh J. Mehta School of Management, and IIT Delhi School of Management. Then the Faculty of Management Studies, which is part of Delhi University, one of India's best B schools. Till a few years back, they conducted their own exam, but now they are a part of CAT. Under XAT, which is a Xavier Aptitude Test, we have XLRI. SP Jain takes course of both CAT and XAT. Then you have XIM Bhubaneswar, GIM, Goa Institute of Management, LIBA, Chennai, and so on. Then you have Great Lakes Institute of Management. Then for Symbiosis group of colleges, you have SNAP exam. And some colleges which still have their own exam, like Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, which is again one of the top 15 institutes in the country. It has a Delhi campus and a Calcutta campus. Similarly, Narsi Monji has their own exam which they call as NMAT. The pattern of CAT might be quite well known to most of you. This pattern has evolved over a number of years. When I gave the exam, you won't believe we had 120 minutes and about 180-190 questions, right, in 4 different sections: RC, then verbal, then quant, and then LA and DI. So 4 different sections we had. But a lot of things have changed. Then it went to 150 questions, then 90 questions, and so on. Now it is at 60 questions. And the time has been increased to 2 hours 20 minutes. But 140 minutes, don't take it as a single exam. In fact, take it as clearly an exam with 2 distinct parts. Part 1 or section 1 has 70 minutes. This 70 minutes has to be used only for these 30 questions which come from the math and data interpretation part, the quant BI. The remaining 70 minutes specifically is for section 2, which is reading comprehension, verbal ability, and reasoning questions. Reasoning is logical ability. Of course, you have negative marking to the range of 1/3 marks, which means you could count it as +3 marks for a correct answer and -1 for a wrong answer. The other important thing is it's an online exam. Okay, so of course the online part is not a big deal. You have questions on the screen. You have paper and pencil to solve it, and you just click on the right option. What is important is the online exam is spread over a number of days. It is conducted over some 20 days and 40 slots, because each day has a morning slot and a evening slot. Right. Now, on each slot, depending on your performance, with a +3 and a -1, you count your score, and that score is called a raw score. Okay, but then raw scores will have to be normalized over the 40 different slots. The idea is that different slots and different people have got different level of difficulty papers. So how do you make sure that everybody is on a level playing ground? So what you do is you normalize the scores such that normalization process, Prometric also called it as scaling. So the people who have appeared an exam on a slot where the paper was of higher level of difficulty, their scores will be scaled up, and the people who have got a paper of lower level of difficulty, that paper will be scaled down. How exactly this process happens is not very clear to us. Obviously, it's a statistical process. It is not clear to us because neither Prometric nor the IIMs ever revealed the formula. But let me also, and there are a lot of people online, especially on social media, who have complained about this particular process. Some of them have also filed cases in the court. Now, I am not trying to defend the selection process. I am not trying to define the statistical process. I can't defend it because I don't know the formula. And anyway, I got a B minus in statistics while I was in IIM Calcutta. So I am not a statistical expert. But what is important to understand is, let us not straight away go on the other side and assume that the process was unfair. So I will not give CAT because CAT is an unfair exam and anything can happen. No, that is also not true. Okay. While 110 people have complained, it is not a big number when you compare that the total number of takers of the exam has been 1,70,000. Okay. So if 110 people felt it was unfair, one, maybe it was not unfair, maybe they have done badly on their exam, or maybe that it was unfair for a very small percentage of people. So either way, it should not prevent you from writing the CAT exam. We have, as every year, this year also we've got very good results from our own coaching centers, and lot of students who have got in are deserving students. People whom we expected that they would get. They were always good performers in the mock CATs that we did, and in the final CAT they also performed. Yes, they were always, every year there will be some people whom we expect will do well, but they don't do well, and one or two who are unexpectedly crack the exam. But largely 90% of the people who get IIM calls, in my experience of 12 years, are people whom we knew that they will do well in CAT. Okay, so it's not in that sense an unfair exam. Quickly moving on. What is the nature of the exam? I mean, the big question is the 5 months that we have, is it enough time to prepare? Before we get into that, I want to talk about the nature of the exam. What kind of an exam is? Unlike all other exams that we have given in college and school, which are basically testing our memory, how much we can remember or memorize, this is a skill exam. When it's a skill exam, memorization does not play a major role. Skill is like learning how to play the piano or the guitar or a violin, or learning how to play tennis, for example. It takes time, but it takes a lot of practice. It's not just about you memorize the rules, you memorize the coaching manual, doesn't mean that you can go and play tennis, right? You need a certain amount of practice. Okay, sound fundamentals are important, but it has to be backed up by lots of. The practice has to be extremely balanced, right? You have to make sure that you are good in all the areas: reading comprehension, verbal ability, logic, DI, and quant. Right? You may be excellent in one or two, but you have to be at least good in the remaining areas. That is one. Second, within the area, if you go to quant, you need to be reasonably good in all the chapters. Again, you can be excellent in some chapters, but you have to be reasonably good in. Let me explain. Last time when I gave CAT, just a couple of years back, my paper had about 3 questions from logarithms. For a long time, people used to neglect logarithms as an area and say, "Chal, ye chota area hai, nahi aayega questions." But my paper had 3 questions from logs. Like that, and once I remove all 3, then I have 22 questions, 18 questions left in quant, out of which I have to attempt about 14, 15 at least. So pressure is going to be very, very high. Understand that thing, that the selection of questions will not be based on what type of question it is or which chapter it is from. The selection of questions, what to attempt, what not to attempt in CAT, will be based on level of difficulty. Is it easy, medium, or? And while CAT overall might be a difficult exam because of the competition, every question of CAT is not difficult. The CAT questions come in different levels of difficulty, from easy, medium to difficult. And Your strategy in the exam will be to identify the easy and medium questions and leave out the difficult. I'm not going into CAT strategy because it's not right now. You need to worry about CAT strategy 3 months from now, after you've done a substantial amount of preparation. Then you need to have a smart approach, not just in terms of what I talked about or selection of questions, but the way you prepare, the way you approach problems, the flexibility to use different methods while solving a problem. Okay, and that really matters. You need to understand yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your abilities. You need to take a lot of exams, see where you are going wrong, see where you are going right, and make the fine tuning. Right? You write exams, understand your accuracy rate, understand your attempts rate, understand what area you are doing well, what area you are wasting time, and keep on making these adjustments. And it is in this kind of a advisory role that somebody really experienced, who has the experience of training a lot of people for CAT, can be really useful. People who can analyze your performance, say, look, you're going wrong here. It might be a small touch. They'll give you maybe a 2-sentence advice, but that 2 sentence will help you get 2 more questions right in the next particular CAT. Remember, this is an intensely competitive exam. Therefore, every bit of help that you can get from an expert is welcome. It's an edge. And yes, while they say that man proposes and God disposes, so you do your best, you get an opportunity, and finally you also might need a little bit of luck, which might take you, which might get you a 99.3 instead of a 98.5. Okay, a 98.5 percentile in CAT and 99.3, both of them are good students, both have worked very hard, but the difference might be a little bit of luck on that given day. Okay, now we come to probably the most important area, which is the preparation strategy for CAT. When we talk about preparing for CAT, I am dividing into 3 areas, roughly from now to July 5th. Okay, then the July 5th to September 5th, which is about 2 months, and then September to October, which is the final phase. Before we go into that, I wanted to specifically address some of the concerns that people who are working, and especially most of you are working in the IT industry, I wanted to look at what kind of concerns that you have. First thing to understand is, most of these IT companies, the TCS, the CTS, the IBM, the Wipro, they have become very large bureaucratic organizations. People who join the same companies, people like you, engineers who have joined the same companies in 2001, 2003, 2004, they got good growth rate, both in terms of position as well as salary. So why is it not happening right now? Okay, the first reason is obviously the size of the company has become too big to get fast growth. When you are a part of a recruitment that that was 30,000 strong, so you are one of the 30,000 engineers recruited that year, or one of the 40,000 engineers recruited that year. There are too many people at the same level for people to get a fast career. The second thing that has happened is that in the 2001, 2002, those times, IT companies were still growing at 50%, 60% every year. Today, IT companies are growing at barely 15%. When companies are not growing, then obviously their ability to promote people, their ability to create more opportunities for you, their ability to give you more money as salary is always limited. Okay, if their profits are not growing high, why will they give you very high increments? Thirdly, I don't want to be too critical, but most of these IT companies have not made that transition to the next level, right? The percentage of work that is done by these IT companies, which is still legacy, transformation, maintenance, testing, is still too high. The kind of dull work that is being done is still too high. There is definitely some very interesting projects, but really the percentage is too small. Lot of work is still, very drudgery kind of work, which means that the level of skill and intelligence requirement itself is low. So you could blame the company for not uh, giving you challenges or salary as per your ability, but perhaps the company doesn't require your ability. Perhaps the company actually requires somebody who is 60% as intelligent as you. Okay, please look around, right? You must have met lot of your colleagues as well as juniors who are joining these IT companies. Lot of them come with much lower level of ability, intelligence and skill that you have. So if you are from a good college with a good academic background and reasonably good skills, then perhaps you are overqualified for your job. And I'm serious. Right? The other thing that is happening is, given that so many people are there at a level, assessment of your work is also not happening. One is, if the work quality is so low, how do you assess the person? If you're basically doing maintenance related work, then how do you say that A perform brilliantly and B perform badly? It's difficult. Third is, the number of people is too high, so it's almost randomly given grades. I'm not even saying favoritism, but let's say even say random. Okay, now give all these people a 3 out of 5. That kind of random assessment is happening, which is also not helping your career. And remember, moving from one IT company to another, unless you get into something like a Microsoft or a Google or that kind of company, it's not going to make much of a difference. Okay, so one of the ways out for you is to get a good score in CAT, join a good B school, and then get into a different sector or come back to this sector in a different role, completely different role, as a consultant, as a client facing role, as a pre-sales or sales role, as a business analyst role. Okay. Now, if I have working professionals who are preparing for CAT, one of the major things that happens is that you have difficulty managing time, right? So let us say that you spend 9 to 7 at office. A lot of people do that. You spend 9 to 7 at the office, but some of you don't stay that close to the office, so at least 1 hour of traveling goes in. So 8 is when you leave from home, and then you come back at about 8. So 12 hours of the day is gone, right? You need at least 7 hours of sleep. So you're really down to a serious problem on how to manage your. The first thing I'll tell you is, you have to find the time, because it is very important. The more you want to change, I still remember it. 3 years back, every year we have an achievers party where people who got into top these schools come and they talk and then we celebrate. So one of the things, feedback that I got was, look, if you really hate your job, you will find the time to crack CAT. Right? Whenever I was lazy in preparing for CAT, I thought about one more year doing the same job that I'm doing, and that scared me, and I immediately up my preparation level for CAT. This is the kind of feedback somebody gave me. So if you really want it, then you will find that time. Okay. Why do I say that? Because the time required is not too high. I'm saying 2 to 2.5 hours if you can manage in a day, you can still do a fair amount of preparation. 2 to 2.5 hours a day, plus a little more on weekends. And when you come close to that, you can up the ante a little bit. But there are few things which are interesting that people understand. Let's say that you are working from 9 to 7. Can you leave at 6? Okay, lot of you can. I'm not saying everybody can. Some people will have deadline issues. Some people will be working longer than 7. But a lot of you can. If you are able to work a little more efficiently, you can complete the day's work and get out in. Some of you might be worried. Okay, if every day if I leave at 6, what will my boss think? Big deal. Don't worry too much about these things. Okay, what is the worst they can do to you? You're a decent performer. No IT company even thinks of firing a decent performer, right? The firing levels at at any of these IT companies is 1% or lower. So are you in the worst 1%? Definitely not. So don't bother about what people can do to you. Okay. So this year people have been given an average of 7 to 8% increment. So how can they punish you by giving 3%? Hardly makes a difference. You are making your plan to get out anything. Second thing is, can you cut the commuting? Can you get into a place closer to your company, even if it is for the next 4 to 5 months, right? Okay, I'm saying you might be staying far away from the IT company because your family is staying there, or you're staying with your parents, or so on, or whatever. But for a 4 or 5 months, shift in to a paying guest accommodation, or with some other share a flat with somebody who's staying close by. These are important things. One is it reduces the level of distraction, and second is it gets you much closer. The commuting time that you save is about 2 hours. If you can't save commuting time, then please use phones, tablets to prepare for CAT while commuting. While in your bus, while in your taxi, then use that time also to prepare. Third thing is irregular working hours. Now this is typically a problem that it does not allow you to join a coaching center. Coaching centers typically offer either evening classes or they offer weekend classes. Now if you are in a project where you have to work some weekends or you have to travel, then you have a problem, right? So what is the solution to irregular working hours? So one solution that we can offer is that VistaMind offers what is called as a virtual classroom program, using something similar to the kind of interface that we are using, right? We can share the way I'm sharing a PPT. We can share a Word document or other documents. We will be able to give you tests online where you can click and select and solve the questions. Time tests can be done. We can give you using a pen tablet. We can solve questions on your screen. So effectively, it's a fairly interactive medium. And the advantage of that is this is typically done at 9:30 p.m. in the night. So typically, whatever your project is, most likely you'll be back home by then. And not only back home, you'll probably had some time to relax and refresh yourself. And 9:30 to 11:30 is when these online classes. And these classes, one, are actually interactive. Two, they are taught by some of the best faculty that we have, because we don't have to worry about location. You might have joined in Calcutta, but a Chennai faculty could teach you, and next day a Bangalore faculty could teach you. Because we have the flexibility of choosing people, a faculty from across the country, we can deliver probably the best faculty experience that you can take. What is very important is to understand the priorities, right? If you make this the number one priority, then all other priorities go off. Things like adult sessions, movies, parties, they can all be suspended for about 4 months, right? I'm definitely not in favor of completely suspending parties, and definitely if you get into an IIM or top B school, you will have a lot of parties. The motto at IIM Calcutta was study hard and party harder, work hard, party harder. Okay, but for a small period of time, 4 to 5 months, if you really analyze the small things that you do which waste 30 minutes here, 40 minutes here, you can save that and create that 2.5 minute time, sorry, 2.5 hour time that you require for preparing for CAT. Okay, please understand, again, those who are suffering because of bad bosses, that please understand, saying no to a boss is quite okay in the 21st century, right? You don't have to say yes boss for everything, right? You can always say, sir, sorry, right now today I can't stay up late, I can't come this weekend. Just don't say no all the time, okay? But you don't have to say yes all the thing about. Let me tell you one thing, fair. Put your bosses. They can't do. My parents are visiting. My aunt is expecting me this, that. I have this important place to go, doctor's appointment. Lot of things you can talk about. Second is, please use your leaves in a smart manner. Every now and then, if your preparation is getting affected, take 2 days off. Sort of refocus on your preparation. Then come back to office. Okay, and then at different stages we'll talk about, we'll guide you. You can take something like 5 days, 6 days off if you have the leaves. Make sure you use the leaves. This is the best way in which you can use your, but don't use them all at a time, right? We'll use them in 2 or 3 tranches depending on how much of leave you. The basic idea is to go from, to understand the concepts, to solve problems, to gain certain speed in solving problems, and then applying a strategy to maximize your score in those 140 minutes on the day of the CAT. To start with, you need a minimum competency in all areas. Please do not ignore any area. Please do not say, no, I will leave this and I will solve all questions from the other area. It is a very dangerous approach to do that. Second, don't worry about the time. The 5 to 6 months time that we have is enough to prepare for CAT. Okay, it is close to 5.5 months if you take the later slot in CAT. So what do you do in the first 70-75 days? Right, you are looking at concepts and you are looking at a lot of practice. Okay, so for example, in quant, you will learn the concepts of arithmetic, algebra, numbers, geometry, pure maths. These are the various areas for CAT. When I say learn, you will learn the concept. You will also solve a significant number of questions. The number of questions you will solve should be at least 60 to 120. For smaller chapters like time and work or indices logs or arithmetic progression and geometric progression, quadratic equation, you can do 60 questions, 50-60 questions, that is good enough. But for bigger chapters like numbers, geometry, permutation and combination, you will have to solve a larger number of questions, about 120 questions. The focus is in solving questions. The focus is in using the simplest way to solve a question. You are not timing yourself yet. You are not saying how many questions I can solve in how many minutes. But what is important is you say, am I doing this problem in the simplest way or possible or not? Because once you learn how to solve problems using the simplest method, the shortest method, then automatically the time taken also will. Similarly, in data interpretation, you get familiar with all types of charts, tables, bar, pie chart, line diagram. and so on and so forth. You will also solve a significant number of questions. Overall DI, I'll say probably you will need to solve about 400 to 500 questions in data interpretation to say that you've got a certain level of competence in that particular. But that's fine, it's not a big deal because each question takes about 3 minutes to solve or 4 minutes. So 400 questions is only 1600 minutes, which is not too much. In the middle game, that is the 2 months from July to September. Now this is probably the most important area of preparation. You have achieved a certain minimum competence level. Now you are trying to do your fine tuning. You are trying to improve areas which are not that good at. At the same time, you are taking at least one mock CAT every week. You are trying to assess your test performance and trying to improve your test strategy. Okay, when you give a mock CAT, you have to spend a lot of time taking feedback from the mock CAT. 2 hours to write 2 hours 20 minutes to write the exam, another 3 hours to analyze the paper. When you analyze the paper, 2 kinds of feedback will come. One is the feedback that you are not good in certain areas. You are not good in PNC, which means you have to go back to the grind and learn the concepts of PNC, solve questions, and become good at PNC. The other type of feedback you will get is, look, you are not selecting the right question. You are wasting time. Now these are all strategy issues. Okay, so both strategy will get fine-tuned. At the same time, you will have to polish your strengths and improve your weaknesses. Okay, in terms of strategy, you will be experimenting on different test strategies. Okay, if I attempt 15 questions, am I able to do it? Then I'll try and attempt 18 questions and see whether I'm still able to do it. I will attempt in the section 2, for example, I will attempt verbal first and then see how it goes. Or then I will try RC first and see how it goes. Okay, I will try to do DI first and then quant. I'll try to do 2 RCs and the remaining verbal and LA questions, or all 3 RCs. So various strategies can be tried out because there is no perfect strategy for everybody. We can give you the general guidelines as far as strategy is concerned, but when it comes to what works for each individual, your strategy finally has to be customized to your abilities, and that customization has to be done by you with guidance from somebody who is an expert. Okay, so now what happens in the end game, which is the last 30 to 45 days? Here a certain amount of mental preparation continues, revision work continues. You will not really take a fresh material except for the new mock CAT that you will give. You will not really use fresh material. The assumption is that a certain minimum competence has been achieved in all areas. Okay, you will try to revise especially good quality questions from each area. When I say revise, it's not going through, you will resolve some of these questions. Remember, one big advice that I'll tell you is, instead of doing more and more quantity of questions, it makes sense to solve for the second time or the third time good quality questions, because the clarity that you get when you solve the same question a second and third time is extremely good. Number of cases as a faculty, I get very good clarity on a question when I'm teaching for the second or third time. Okay, the familiarity with questions is very important. You have to be familiar with a large number of question types. Because the idea is, in CAT, how do you select a question and how do you leave it? A lot depends on how familiar you are with that particular question. If you get a question in CAT and you can say, look, this question is similar to the one that I solved before, or 80% similar, or it is of similar type with a twist, then you know that yes, it is solvable, you know how much time it will take roughly, and you know where and how to start solving this particular. But if you get a question of a model that you have never seen before, then you might have to leave that question because you have no idea whether that question is solvable or not solvable. Okay, so lot of the time in the end days will go on three things. One is revision work, especially resolving the quality of it. What I do normally is when I prepare, let's say I solve 50 questions in this chapter, but in this 50 questions, some 7-8 questions are high quality questions. I mark those high quality questions so that when I come back for revision, I don't have the time to solve all 50 questions, but these 7-8 questions I'll definitely resolve. Okay, so that revision work is the first thing. The second thing that we do, we continue to give mock CATs, but now what we do, by now we have done experimentation, we freeze the strategy. Okay, we do not experiment anymore. The last 5-6 months we do not experiment on this strategy, but we internalize the strategy such that it becomes second nature to us. So you wake me up in the night. If I wake you up in the night and give you a start taking a mock CAT, you should know exactly what to do. Thirdly, we need to focus on mental strength. Okay, so a lot of work, a certain amount of work through different exercises, either meditation or other exercises, to work on concentration. Right? Why is it that the same person performs well on one day or a second day? Lot depends on the mental state on that particular day, the level of concentration that you have on a particular day. So to make that better, right, a certain amount of techniques can be used to improve your mental concentration. Okay, first thing is let me introduce the company to you. VistaMind was formed essentially by people who are from top IIMs. Most of them have had corporate experience, and each of them has at least 10 years or so of training experience, where we have trained hundreds and thousands of students successfully to get into the top schools. Right. To be honest, most of us have worked with as franchisees for one of the leading companies, but we quit that company because this particular company was becoming a factory. The focus was no longer on academics. The focus was no longer on how best to educate the student. The focus was much more on how to do marketing and how to get more and more revenue. So obviously I've done an MBA, I'm not against revenue, but the key focus should be on the product or service that we deliver. I was a franchisee head for Calcutta for 10 years, and throughout that time, except in the first 6 months, the company representatives never talked about how to improve the service quality to the students. The focus was always on how to improve the marketing, how to spend more money on advertising, and so on and so forth. So that is one of the key reasons why we quit, because we felt that when you take a factory approach, you are not able to provide mentorship to the students. It's not only about classes, right? A lot of, especially for the good students, a lot of difference is made by the post-class interaction that you get, and the kind of, a good coach should be able to look at a student, identify their weakness, and give simple tips to sort of correct that weakness. Okay, so I will not go into all this, but one again important thing, difference between VistaMind and almost any other coaching center is VistaMind is the only National Coaching Center, wherein the study material that is used in class as well as the mock cats are made by the faculty. So as a faculty, I am not teaching material somebody else has made. I am teaching material that we have made together, so that we made material based on what is required to effectively teach. At the same time, we provide a lot of study material, online sectional tests, almost about 180 plus sectional tests of each area, and of course some very high quality smart cats. Plus the use of technology, which is something that, I mean, we are living in a technology world, is something that we have done very well. Even for people who've joined classroom coaching, physical classroom coaching, we have given some workshops, some mock discussions, and a fair amount of GD interview training through online, so that the students can get the benefit. Not just students who join in Calcutta should get the benefit not only of me and the Calcutta team, but also of the best faculty that we have across the programs that we have. Obviously, we have the traditional classroom training programs. VistaMind is present in Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, Mysore, Lucknow, Kanpur, Jhansi, Siliguri, Nagpur. We are starting in Hubli, we are starting in Bhubaneswar, and very soon probably Coimbatore will be starting. Okay. So these are the places where we will be able to offer classroom training program. At the same time, classroom program has two types. One is a regular program for first time people who are preparing for CAT. People who have given CAT and got a decent score but want to improve it and aim for a top B school. We have a repeaters program, okay, which is also at a discounted fee, much severely discounted fee, because students might have paid for coaching already, so we don't want to charge them full fee at the again. Second, the same two programs, full time and repeaters, are also available on an online mode. Right, this online virtual classroom mode through the WebEx interface is something that is extremely interactive and extremely convenient, because you do it from the from the convenience of your home. All you need is a bandwidth of about 1 Mbps, which is not uncommon these days. Right, even 3G dongles are giving you this thing, and again you need not be in the same location. Let's say you are gone on work or for some other reason to Bangalore, you can still take the class from Bangalore. Okay. Now, while I can talk about how interactive and how good it is, I think the best case is for those who are looking for an online program, they should just send me a mail and I will arrange a demo class for them. More than one demo class is required, and you will be able to clearly see for yourself that virtual classroom teaching is effective. At the other time, those who are already prepared once may not require a full coaching program again, but they can only look at the smart cats or smart cat plus discussion. Okay, we have smart cats plus discussion as one package and smart cats plus workshop as another. Okay, and all those who have registered for this session and the earlier section, we will be sending you emails which will keep you updated about the various programs that we will. Thank you very much. You have been a very patient audience, but I'm a little worried that nobody is asking questions. So now is the time for any queries related to MBA as well as CAT. Right. Question from Harsh. Harsh, you should all of you put your questions to all participants rather than privately, so that the rest of the participants can also understand what question that I am answering. So Harsh is asking that uh, he is working as a probationary officer in SBI. So will that work experience get counted? Harsh, of course it will get counted. In fact, it is good because the IIMs don't want WorkX only of one type. It's not that the IIMs only want IT WorkX. They genuinely are happy to get people of different types of work experience because it increases the diversity of the batch, right? So a person who works in steel industry, person who works in mining industry, core sector, electronics, person who works in marketing, person who worked in banking. So all of them will bring in additional knowledge, which is useful when you're doing projects and discussions and case studies in the B schools. More questions? I'm sure you have some question or the other. Anytime you have any issues or queries, feel free to send me an email and I will respond to that. At the same time, specifically for people who are interested in the online program, you could send me a mail or you could directly contact Mr. A. Srinivas. Right, this is his email ID. Right, I'm also giving his email ID and uh, phone number. Srinivas is also an pass out from IIM Indore, and he is the main coordinator for the online program. He will ensure that all your queries are sorted out, as well as uh, as well as he will also be able to arrange demo classes for you so that you can actually find out for yourself whether it is effective. Yeah, Aritra, see, during an interview, you might obviously face questions based on the nature of work. There are two things. One is about your company broadly. Okay, let's say you're working in TCS. They'll say, okay, tell me about TCS. How is the performance in the last 1 year? How is the market capitalization? What percentage of TCS revenue comes from North America? What are the various verticals and so on, which is macro performance. Who is the CEO and so on. But you could also have questions based on very specifically on your role, your responsibilities, what kind of learnings you did, what achievements you had, what kind of problems you faced and solved, etc. Then outside of your job, they can ask you questions as to what kind of career plan do you have. They expect you to have a good, clear career plan. Why do you want to do an MBA? What do you expect to get out of it? Okay, at least what are your short-term career goals, like that. a clear plan for your career. Please, lot of people that I have seen, they are sliding. They are just taking one day at a time. Abhi chal raha hai to chalne do kind of thing. Please do not do that with your career. It's an extremely risky thing. Because let's say you end up with 7 years working. After that, the options are really closed. Okay, maybe you can do a 1 year program, executive MBA program, which is even for that I think 7 years plus you are borderline now. Okay, and you may not have too many options if you just let it go like that. Right? For 2 year full time, better do it before 4 years work experience. And those who have more than 4 years, then they might also look at GMAT and the 1 year executive MBA program. Okay, so do not waste your time thinking next year karenge kind of thing. Give it a full shot this year. You may have to give it next year. Suppose you end up with 95 percentile. Instead of joining a lower college, give it one more time, and in CAT 15 you might get into the IIM. Okay, and understand the fact that it's not just about the money, right? Money does matter. I'm not the person to say money doesn't matter, but it's not just the money. It is the kind of work that you do, the way you behave, the way you work, the way you lead. Everything about you will change if you are lucky enough to get into a top B school. And I tell you in all honesty, this uh, IIM experience changed my life, and it has changed the life of so many people. Second thing is, I am not from any IIT background. I come from a very average engineering college. Even in that average engineering college, I did not have any great scores. So let us not have this feeling that it is not for me or I cannot do it. Right? You have as good a chance as any IITian or Lady Shriram College or Carmel College or St. Stephen's College kind of people. Right? Don't worry too much about it. And as I said, while there is a weightage for 10th, 12th and graduation, for most B schools, Aritra, written test. See, written test is an essay. You get a small topic on which you have to write. It's about 15 minutes to 20 minutes normally. General awareness based test. Right? So, before you leave, again, I'm very glad I was able to hopefully provide some amount of help. At the same time, I hope some of you at least will take up CAT and be successful and join some of the top B schools and have a good management career. Thank you very much. Feel free to send any mails to me on any query related to CAT or management. Whether or not you join VistaMind is not the issue. Anybody who requires advice, I am happy to help. Right? Thank you very much. Ankuran, can you just stay back for a few more minutes to answer any questions?